During a livestream, he suddenly noticed something terrifying. All of his viewers were inexplicably spamming the chat, warning him to run for his life. At first, he thought it was just a prank by his fans, but soon after, he received an emergency alert from the National Disaster Prevention Agency. Then, loud crashing sounds echoed from outside. Along with it came panicked screams from downstairs. Curious, he stepped out to the balcony to check. What he saw left him completely shocked. The scene outside was already total chaos. People were fleeing from buildings like maniacs. Even fire trucks were out of control, crashing everywhere. Then he noticed people were biting each other on the streets. In the middle of this madness, Junwoo froze in place, unable to understand what was going on. At that moment, a woman grabbed a kitchen knife to protect her daughter, who had just come home from school. But in the next second, her daughter leapt on her and started biting her without mercy. Junwoo was stunned by the horrifying scene. Just as he was trying to figure out what to do, suddenly, loud banging came from his front door. He looked through the peephole. Everything outside seemed calm again, like nothing had happened. Tempted, he considered opening the door to check. But the next second, a man burst into his apartment. Junwoo immediately became alert. It turned out to be his neighbor from next door. Junwoo wasn't close with him at all. His instinct told him to kick the guy out. But the neighbor shamelessly insisted on staying. He even said he just needed to use the bathroom first. "I'll leave once I'm done," he said. With no choice, Junwoo turned on the TV to find out what was going on outside. That's when he learned that an unknown virus was spreading rapidly across the city. Those infected became bloodthirsty and violent like zombies. Anyone bitten would become infected too. It was even more brutal than what happened in Train to Busan. After watching the news, Junwoo was filled with dread. He suddenly remembered seeing blood on the neighbor earlier. Frightened, he began looking for a weapon. Just then, the neighbor came out of the bathroom. Junwoo quickly picked up a pen to defend himself and try to force him out. The neighbor claimed he was fine just a second ago, but then his eyes suddenly turned wild. And then something truly terrifying happened.
아니야. 야, 너 나가라고! 야, 너 나가!
Faced with the attacking neighbor, Junwoo's adrenaline surged. He fought with all his might and finally pushed the guy out. After slamming the door shut, he barely had time to catch his breath. The noise he had just made attracted an even more terrifying zombie. He watched in horror as a massive zombie twisted his neighbor's body like a pretzel. Terrified, Junwoo didn't dare make a sound. Once the zombie left, he didn't hesitate to drag the fridge over. He blocked the front door completely. Then he tried to contact his parents, wanting to know what was going on where they were. But there was no response on the other end of the line. Fortunately, not long after, his mother texted him first. She told him they were safe for now and reminded Junwoo not to go outside and to stay home and wait for rescue. As night fell, Junwoo began organizing the remaining food in his home. He initially divided it into 7 meals, but after reconsidering, he decided to stretch it to 9 meals. After all, no one knew how long this crisis would last. The next day, he saw rescue videos posted by others online, so he recorded one of his own, hoping to draw attention and that someone might come to rescue him. But that hope quickly faded. He realized some people had even started live streaming. If anyone really had the means to help, they would have done it by now. Then, he spotted a drone and got an idea. He strapped his phone to the drone and flew it out to check the situation outside. But the view was horrifying. The entire apartment complex had become a zombie playground, not a single survivor in sight. Helpless, Junwoo tried to stay calm. He decided to kill time with a battle royale game, but before it even started, he was kicked from the server, likely because the zombies had already damaged the network. With no games to play, he figured he might as well get some sleep. But around 2:30 a.m., a loud noise came from downstairs. Startled, he rushed to check what was going on, but just as he peeked out, a bullet flew right past him. Terrified, he ducked back immediately. It turned out a female police officer was downstairs fighting for her life against the zombies. Though she was fighting bravely, the gunshots attracted even more zombies. To make matters worse, she ran out of bullets. Just as she was about to reload, a zombie suddenly leapt at her. The female officer was instantly tackled to the ground. Moments later, more zombies swarmed in, pinning her down completely. In despair, the officer raised her gun to shoot herself. But just a moment of hesitation cost her the chance to do so. 2 zombies dragged her to the parking garage hallway. There, even more zombies were gathered, packed like sardines. Seeing the officer in imminent danger, Junwoo, who had been watching everything, couldn't take it anymore. He shouted loudly at the zombies, trying to draw their attention away, but it was already too late. Not only did his shouting fail to save the officer, it brought trouble to his own doorstep. The fridge blocking his door was suddenly kicked open. The powerful zombie that had dragged away his neighbor was now storming toward him. Terrified, Junwoo rushed to push back the fridge, but against such brute strength, he didn't stand a chance. At this critical moment, Junwoo suddenly realized that the zombies had limited intelligence. So, he came up with an idea. Quickly climbing out onto the balcony railing, he began taunting the zombie. The zombie charged forward and fell straight off the high rise. Hanging under the railing, Junwoo narrowly escaped death. When he looked back, he was shocked to see the female officer had turned into a zombie. After narrowly surviving, he reinforced the front door. Then he gave in to despair. He started drinking his dad's treasured liquor. When hungry, he ate instant noodles. When tired, he slept. When overwhelmed, he cried his heart out. But that kind of life didn't last long. He soon ran out of food. And in that moment of despair, he miraculously received a voice message from his mother. But due to poor signal, he couldn't open the message. So, he risked climbing outside the window to get a better signal. After finally getting connected, he heard the blood-curdling screams of his parents being attacked by zombies. Learning that his parents were likely dead completely shattered what little hope Junwoo had left. All his pent-up emotions exploded at once. His parents' fate left him with no will to live. The rage and grief in his heart needed to be released, so he opened the front door. He was practically begging every zombie to come after him, but there was no response. Junwoo recklessly walked outside, almost asking for death, but just as he stepped out, a swarm of zombies surged up from behind. Even though he had been fearless moments ago, the sight of so many zombies shook him. He immediately turned and ran for his life, but another group of zombies had gathered from the other side too, leaving him nowhere to escape. Panicked, he pressed the elevator button. Luckily, just as the zombies closed in, the elevator doors opened. But in the next moment, a tidal wave of zombies rushed in like a flood. Fortunately, Junwoo quickly hid behind a pile of clutter and narrowly escaped. Once the zombies left, he dashed back toward his home, but just then, a sudden noise came from behind. He quickly ducked behind a wall. Luckily, that particular zombie had been blind in life and didn't notice him. Seizing the opportunity, Junwoo rushed inside and shut the door, but the sound of the door slamming caught the zombies' attention. These mutated creatures still retained some of their former memories. They even began trying to open the door. Luckily, they eventually gave up and left. That night, after having taken revenge on the zombies, Junwoo, now with no regrets, recorded a will. He had resolved to end it all, but just as he was about to hang himself, a red light suddenly shone through the window. The red light came from the building across the street. Instantly, Junwoo abandoned the idea of suicide. He realized he wasn't the only survivor. Struggling, he untied the noose, then hurriedly looked toward the red light's source. To his surprise, there stood a young and beautiful woman across the street. She angrily signaled that he was an idiot, but instead of being offended, Junwoo was thrilled. He couldn't help but wave at her excitedly. The girl used hand signals to tell him they'd talk again at 7 a.m. the next day. Then they both returned to their own rooms. Just like Junwoo, the girl had been surviving alone since the outbreak began. However, Yubin had far better survival skills. Not only did she strictly ration her meals, she also set up traps inside her apartment to eliminate any zombies that accidentally wandered in. The next day, they exchanged names. The girl's name was Yubin. By this time, Junwoo had gone a whole day without eating and clutched his stomach in hunger. Yubin. Noticing his desperate state, he immediately decided to send her some food. He planned to tie a baseball to a string and throw it across. Then they could connect a string between the two buildings. But in the end, he underestimated the distance between the buildings. Luckily, Yubin quickly figured out his plan. She used the drone to carry the string to the other side. Eventually, Junwoo successfully received the food from Yubin. He enjoyed a satisfying meal. However, just then, something unexpected happened. A firefighter who had turned into a zombie spotted the baseball and string. Junwoo immediately warned Yubin, but just as he tried to untie the string, the zombie suddenly pulled hard. Yubin was knocked unconscious by the table. Even scarier, the firefighter zombie still retained his climbing skills from before. He started climbing up the building. Junwoo realized the danger. He quickly threw a bottle to distract the zombie. He tried to draw the zombie's attention, but the zombie completely ignored him. The zombie was almost at Yubin's floor. Junwoo quickly flew his drone to distract the zombie. At first, it worked, but it didn't last long. Soon, the drone was destroyed by the zombie. Just as the zombie was about to enter Yubin's room, thankfully, Yubin woke up in time. That evening, it suddenly began to rain heavily. They quickly grabbed pots and bowls to collect water. Then Yubin used binoculars to observe outside. She noticed that the 8th floor of a nearby building seemed to be zombie-free. As time went on, their food supply was running out. To survive, they had to go out and look for more food. At night, to avoid making noise, Junwoo wrapped his feet in towels. He grabbed a bat and stepped outside. But one day as they were chatting, they suddenly heard what sounded like rain outside. Junwoo rushed to collect water, but when he opened the window he was stunned, because it wasn't rain at all. It was the sound of zombies' footsteps. For some unknown reason, they had suddenly gone berserk and began flooding into the building where the two were hiding. Realizing the danger, they both dropped to the floor, holding their breath in silence. But as Yubin reached for her axe, she accidentally knocked over a shelf. The noise immediately alerted the zombies. They began slowly approaching Yubin's apartment. Yubin could hear their footsteps getting closer and closer. She began to panic. At that moment, Junwoo had an idea. He suddenly asked for her apartment number. Just as the zombies reached Yubin's door, the phone in the apartment next door started ringing. It drew all of the zombies away. Junwoo had cleverly called the neighbor's phone. That smart move helped them narrowly escape danger. Yubin collapsed to the ground, relieved. But now, the building was crawling with zombies, and their food supply was running low. Staying put had become far too dangerous. So they decided to head to the floor Yubin had spotted earlier that seemed free of zombies. The two quickly began packing all their belongings. Then, Yubin efficiently secured the rope. Just as Junwoo was telling Yubin to let him go down first, Yubin casually jumped down without hesitation. The moment she landed, zombies swarmed toward her from all directions. Then she pulled out an ice axe and fought her way through the horde. Junwoo was shocked by what he saw from above, but just as Yubin picked up the handgun dropped by a female officer, she was tackled by a zombie. In that life or death moment, luckily, Junwoo arrived in time and bravely killed the zombie. He grabbed her hand and they ran together into the building. Once inside, they quickly shut the glass door. Just before the door was about to be destroyed, they managed to enter the elevator. Fortunately, the elevator still had backup power. They arrived on the 8th floor, which they had previously scouted as zombie-free. Sure enough, it was very quiet. Not a single zombie in sight. They went door to door trying to enter the apartments. Suddenly, a zombie appeared in the corridor. Seeing it was only one, Junwoo prepared to take it down. But what happened next shocked him. A massive horde of zombies appeared at the stairwell and charged toward them. The situation was dire. Yubin rushed to knock on doors while Junwoo quickly dismantled a metal gate in an attempt to block the horde. Just then, a door suddenly opened and Yubin was pulled inside. A smoke bomb was thrown and a mysterious man appeared and also saved Junwoo. Although the two were momentarily safe, Yubin remained cautious since she remembered there should have been no one living on this floor. The man poured them some water. Seeing their hesitation, the man said he understood. Only after seeing him drink the water himself did they cautiously take a sip. It seemed he really was a fellow survivor. He then brought out food, an abundant meal of corn and meat that made the two dig in ravenously. The man told them not to worry. He had just heard a rescue broadcast on the radio. The news thrilled them. They were so excited they nearly cried. Salvation was in sight. But Yubin suddenly sensed something off. She noticed that none of the people in the photos on the wall looked like the man in front of them. Just as she was about to ask, Junwoo suddenly collapsed, and Yubin felt dizzy too. It wasn't a coincidence. The man then dragged Yubin toward a back room, planning to tie her up. When Yubin woke up again, she found herself facing a tied-up female zombie. It turned out to be the man's wife. Despite her being infected, he still couldn't let her go. He couldn't bear to see his wife go hungry, so he had to capture living people to feed her. Everyone who used to live in this apartment had become food for the zombie. Outside the room, the man slowly untied the rope restraining his zombie wife as she crept closer, step by step. Yubin screamed in terror and backed away, and at that moment, Junwoo regained consciousness. Panicked, he pointed his gun at the man, but the man seemed sure of himself and let go of the rope. Sure enough, Junwoo rushed forward to grab it, but the zombie woman was too strong and the rope slipped away. Junwoo hurried to open the door, only to find it had been locked. A scream rang out from inside the room. Then, silence fell over the entire room. Had the wife finished eating? The man slowly pushed the door open. The next second, the zombie lunged at him and bit his neck. Turns out, Yubin had covered the zombie's head with a pillow to save herself and luckily escaped harm. Seeing the man still comforting his wife, Yubin couldn't bear it any longer. She decisively fired her gun, ending their suffering. But the sound of the gunshot attracted a swarm of zombies toward the door. As the situation grew increasingly hopeless, Yubin and Junwoo exchanged a resigned smile and prepared to end their lives. But suddenly, a loud rumble came from outside the window. They rushed to look outside. It was a rescue helicopter. At that moment, they were instantly reignited with a will to survive. They rushed out with everything they had. After narrowly pushing through the flood of zombies, Junwoo used a bicycle to slow the chasing horde. Then they made it to the rooftop. They quickly barricaded the door. Though they fought desperately to hold the line, the door was finally forced open. Zombies came flooding in. Just when all seemed lost, the helicopter finally spotted them and swooped in, gunning down the surrounding zombies. The two were rescued. At that moment, the radio tower was finally restored. More and more survivors began using the internet to send distress signals. As long as you're alive, there's always hope, even in the darkest of times. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like it, press subscribe and see you in the next video.